What's up you guys? Welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be going over Donald Trump's birth chart. And for those of you who are new to astrology or don't really know much about it, I'm just going to explain what a natal chart is. So most people, when they think of astrology, they think of sun sign astrology. And while this isn't wrong, it's just not complete. So my sun sign is a Leo. Your sun sign is the sign that you think of when people ask you what your sign is. And the way that that's determined, and we're going to get into why it's kind of wrong and not complete, is this wheel right here. I don't know how to edit, or else I would just like insert it, but I'm trying to just explain, is a circle, obviously. And all of the planets, the night you were born, according to the day, time, and place that you were born, it's the way the sky looked. And each planet is in a different sign. So it's split into 12 pieces like a pie. And those 12 pieces are different zodiac signs, and then outside of the wheel there's another 12 pieces, which are the 12 different houses. So you could have a sun in Gemini like Donald Trump, but the rest of your stuff could be in completely different locations, meaning completely different things. You know, Mercury is the communication planet, so you if your communication sector is in Pisces, you're going to communicate differently than a sun Gemini with Mercury in another Gemini. I'm just put that out there. I think I'm getting confusing now, so I'm just going to shut up and get into it. But anywho, so this is what it looks like, but I know that means like nothing to you guys, so I'm just going to go into explaining it. So I have some notes. I literally have a gazillion pages of notes for Donald Trump's chart, and it's honestly so interesting because he literally was born to be president, and I'm not saying he was a good one, but he was definitely born to do this. And so as you can see, it keeps going, just keeps fucking going. Yeah, so the first thing I'm going to start with is just a little explanation on his house placements. So each house represents something different, and what's really funny is he has mostly empty houses, except for he has a very full 11th house and a very full 10th house. And the reason that this is interesting is the 10th house is all about your career and what career path you're going to go down in life, and your 11th house is all about social networking, organization, society at large. And so it's really interesting that those are his two most pop-in houses. Oh, that was not cute. Yeah, and then he has some placements in the second house too, which are just as full as his 10th house. And the second house is material goods, things that you own, possessions. His, family house and the houses that, pertain to like communication, and the house that, if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes, the house that pertains to health, those are completely empty for him. And that doesn't mean that, he doesn't have any of that in his life. It just means that to him, those things aren't as big of a priority, and they aren't the strengths that he should be playing to. If you want to look up your own chart and look at your own houses, it's really informative because it kind of shows you what areas would be better for you to like excel at in life. And if you don't believe me, just listen to this chart reading and tell me it's not spot frickin' on. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through each planet, the house they're in, and the sign they're in, and what that means. And this is not particular to Donald Trump. Anyone with these placements is going to have these aspects. And if you don't believe me, and if you think I just looked at Donald Trump and wrote down some bullshit, listen to what I say. If I say like sun in the 10th house, go look that up for yourself and tell me what it says. The way that I research this is I have a ton of books on astrology. I'll try to link some down below that I think are good. And you can even Google it if you don't want to go out and buy a whole book. And, I try to check my research with multiple different sources. And I also, everyone I run into, if we get even slightly past small talk, I'm going to ask you for the time, day, and place you were born, because I want to look at your natal chart and I want to see how true these things are in real life, not just what I read in a book and not just what I read online. And I've been researching this for literally years. And that's why I'm so into astrology, because it's just mind-blowingly accurate natal charts. So anyway, without further ado, we're going to get into it. So we're going to start with his sun, and as I'm sure a lot of you know, his sun is in Gemini, which means Donald Trump is a Gemini. And Geminis are very curious cats. They like to have a finger in every pie, as I'm sure you know with his career. It's been all over the place. They tend to, if you see me looking down, like I said, I'm looking at my notes. I'm not depressed, but why did I say that? Anyway, so they tend to know a lot of random trivia, but they don't really know the inner workings of things and how those random facts connect. And that kind of makes them jump to conclusions, but that's another story. They also are just not boring. They're entertaining. If you know any Geminis, you know that there's just never a boring day with them. And his sun is in the 10th house. Now the 10th house is the house of career. It's where your career is going to go. It's, what career path you're going to take. And for this placement, they often have a really strong father figure. The father is very influential in how their career is going to manifest, which is like beyond accurate for him. And the father usually tends to be a public figure. Now, this doesn't always have to be on such a grandiose scale that Donald Trump's father was, but this could mean that your dad, you know, is like on the school board, or he, you know, is just well known in the neighborhood, or he's, you know, owns a popular business, some type of public figure. And usually their career stems from watching the father while they grow up get admiration, and leads them to want to do that. And usually it means that, yeah, like I said, the dad really influences the career. And I don't think anyone's going to argue that Donald Trump's career wasn't, you know, handed to him by a small loan of $1 million. So next we're going to move on to the moon. Now I totally forgot to say what the sun like means. Your sun sign is, you know, what everyone thinks of when they think of themselves. Like, I'm a Leo, you're a yada yada, you're an Aquarius, blah blah blah. So anywho, you already know what that one really means. So moon is like your subconscious, your emotions, who you are inside, like you're the deepest you. I'm a lunar Scorpio, which means deep down, I'm an evil piece of shit. Just kidding. Scorpios are great. I love you. But so his moon is in Sagittarius, which is a fire sign, and I'm a Leo, which is also a fire sign. So they're a little I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to cut stuff out that I do that's embarrassing. Okay, anyway, spring that happened. Okay, so his moon in Sagittarius makes him innately optimistic. He is always going, even if the ship is sinking, even if the ship is sinking, he's going to be like, yeah, we're gonna be fine. I can swim away. Like, he is almost optimistic to a fault. It usually means that they are like kind of nomadic. They want to move around a lot. They want to travel. They want to see the world. And, you know, Donald Trump definitely does that. Whether it's because he's rich, I don't know. They also tend to find work situations that involve foreign bodies, which is really kind of funny. He has a few placements in here that kind of like talk about, you know, being buddy with like some foreigners and, you know, Russia, I don't know. Anyway, so they love to learn, but when they can learn something and hold on to it and become really preachy about it. So if they learn something that's wrong, or if their belief systems are tainted, they can become really preachy in a really bad way. But this could also be used in a good way. But it genuinely means that they're gonna think, I learned this, I know more than you, I'm blocking out what you have to say, and what I say is right. And it's not really a great mentality to have for a leader, but that's okay because he has a lot of other really great placements for leaders. So next we're gonna talk, oh wait, I'll get to his house placement. So it's in the 4th house. In the 4th house, this is his only placement in the 4th house, and it dictates like your childhood, your roots. And I think the 4th house is so important because to me, your childhood shapes you a lot more than I think people give it credit for. I think a lot of people spend the majority of their adult lives either processing and fixing things that shaped them in their childhood, or completely ignoring them and being menaces to society. So the moon in the 4th house means that he's going to dedicate himself to his family life. And he has a few other placements too that really, you know, emphasize that family is very important to him. And it's no secret that he loves his family. His kids are literally in the White House illegally doing work for him. He loves his kids, and I don't doubt that. And with his moon in Sagittarius means that he's probably going to break the general rules for this placement when it comes to, how do I say this? Like, when it comes to his family. He's gonna break rules when it comes to his family. So if it means getting them ahead, or getting them a good job, or getting them, you know, on, you know, playing in the soccer field instead of sitting on the bench, he's gonna break the rules. He's a rule breaker. But Sagittariuses are great. So like Gemini sun and Sagittarius moon is kind of a lethal combination. And his ascending is in Leo, which I'm really excited to talk about. So what your ascending is the 1st house, which is located over here. I don't think that's gonna, anyway, that doesn't matter. Your 1st house has a cusp, and the ascending is the planet or whatever the sign that's like right there. And for him, it was Leo, because it's called ascending because it's like ascending over the horizon, if that makes any sense. And your ascending sign is almost more important than the other two. I mean, not more important, but it's more visually seen and seen by others than the other two, because it's basically the impression that you leave on people, like what you leave people with, how people are seeing you. And for him, it's Leo. And it's so funny because one of my astrology books, I opened it up to ascending Leo, and it literally said a king sitting on a high throne. And need I say more for Donald Trump? Like, They like to pretend also that money is not a problem when it usually is. Now we're gonna get into another placement of his Jupiter placement that basically wipes this out and makes this not an issue, but it definitely makes sense as to why he probably is over exaggerating his tax records and all that, but that's not my business. So this also means that this person's going to be an innate aristocrat, which is like obvious, and they're also kind of selfish. Leos are a very regal sign. They have big egos and bigger hearts. A lot of people think that they're selfish, but I think a lot of that comes from like, you know, insecurity, because with an ego that big comes with insecurity that big. And maybe I'm biased because I'm a Sun Leo, I'm a Leo, but anyway, so on to the next planet. So we're going to talk about Mercury. And Mercury is the communication planet, and it not only rules communication with others, it rules like the communication that you have with yourself. And his Mercury is in Cancer, and Cancer is the first water sign. It's more of an emotional sign, and so to have your communication planet in a more emotional water sign means that you're going to take the things that people say to you, the things that people communicate to you very personally. And so if someone says something to you, it's going to control your mood. So if someone says something mean, that's going to stick with you and make you really angry. If someone says something positive, that's going to go straight to your head and feed your ego. They can really overreact if they're challenged or critiqued, and they can also take, you know, what someone might just be saying to be nice as like, you're right, I am the best at that. I should, you know, go do yada, yada, yada. So their communication definitely rules their emotions. The things that other people say to them rule how they feel. So Mercury for him is in the 11th house, and this house is his most filled house, and it's the house of society at large, socializing, organizations, and leadership roles. So having his communication in the 11th house means that his intellect is expressed best through organizations and clubs and large groups. And this can kind of mean that he expresses things better when he takes ideas from a large group of people. So he isn't necessarily the one to come up with these great ideas, but he's very good at herding people together to work out the kinks and get to that point, if that makes any sense. He usually considers his thoughts advanced and ahead of his time, and they don't really think things through all the way. This can mean that you know, we all know he was like, Mexico's gonna pay for the wall. Like, that's an idea he had. Did he think about he was gonna process that through? No, but you know, that's Trump. And also because Mercury, the communication planet, is in the 11th house, you know, society, organizations, big groups of people, means that the way they communicate, they want to be a mouthpiece for society at large. And that's a pretty good placement to have as a president, just depending on who he chooses to speak for. So next we're going to talk about Venus, which is my personal favorite because it's a love planet. And, you know, it's not just relationships with people you like romantically, it's your friendships as well. And his Venus is in Cancer, so this is his now second Cancer placement. Cancer is a pretty emotional placement, which makes sense because he's a pretty sensitive guy, whether you believe it or not. I have watched it and seen if you have any type of emotional intelligence, you know that a lot of his opinions and a lot of the shit that he spews out of his mouth is because he's personally offended or something personally affected his emotions. He's not one to let things roll off his shoulder, you know? Anyway, so Venus in Cancer pretty much means that they're tough on the outside, but they have that soft, gooey shell on the inside, kind of like I just explained. But they're also very tuned into what is unspoken. They pick up on the things that people are trying to hide and aren't letting just, you know, flow out of their mouths. So they really pick up on what's not said. Venus and Cancers can be good listeners if they aren't combined with a bunch of other aspects that make them assholes, but you know. Anyway, I gotta stop getting personal. So, but they also hold on to their hurt feelings as a form of revenge in all of their relationships. And yeah, that's not very good. And his Venus is also in the 11th house, which I just explained is society, organizations, you know, people as a whole. And this is actually described as the perfect placement for bringing groups together for a common cause. Whether you think that that cause is good or not, you know, but he's damn good at bringing people together for it, whatever that means. And they also derive their self-worth from being seen with the right group of friends. So the people that they're surrounded with really, you know, they view as a reflection of themselves, which, you know, I was always told, you know, watch the company that you keep, you know, you become who you hang out with. You're the reflection of the 3 people you spend the most time with, which I have seen that, you know, in living color. So that's his Venus. Next, we're gonna go into Mars. Now, Mars is the planet of energy, action, and anger. And his Mars is in Leo, which is a little concerning because, like I said, Leo's kind of an egotistical sign. Very, I'm right, I'm the best, you know, yada yada, look at me. So if he's angry, he could definitely think that, like, you know, it's his way or the highway. And if you have a bad temper, that can quickly go wrong, especially if you're in the position of the president of the most powerful country in the world. So, yeah. This person is probably very theatrical and just overall flamboyant, and I think it's no secret that Trump says what's on his mind. He does not care what people think of him, or he would have some type of publicist who actually does their jobs. But I don't know. Losing is not an option for them. Any atmosphere that's challenging to them, they're gonna get out of. So if someone's in his inner circle saying, hey, you know, that's a good idea you had, but I don't really think it's gonna realistically work out, maybe you should try this, that, and the other, he's gonna be like, you're fired. No pun intended, but like pun intended, so like, hey. And they love flirting to conquer, which I think, you know, Trump is like quite the promiscuous flirt, because he can be, because he's rich, you know, definitely not because of his charming good looks. So anyway, his Mars, the planet of action and energy, is in the 12th house. Now, this house is kind of like the end of things. It's the subconscious and it's self-undoing. So the fact that he has a planet of anger and how he's gonna, you know, fuck himself up in life and kind of end shit means that he could put himself in a position with his temper that could end up either killing him or killing his career or, you know, killing his reputation, ending things for him. And he's in the presidency, which means he's in a prime position to make that happen. Your planet in the 12th house shows like where this person needs to wake up, which means this person, Donald Trump, anyone with a Mars in the 12th house needs to work on their personal anger, not taking things to heart, not lashing out. That's going to be a struggle for their entire lives, and it's something that they need to get control under. If you're wondering which part of your life you need to work on, go look at what planet is in your 12th house and it will let you know. So next we're going to talk about Jupiter, this is the best placement of his entire chart because he has a Jupiter in the 2nd house. I'm going to explain what that means in a second. It is the luckiest placement I think anyone could have when it comes to, you know, financial stability. So Jupiter is the planet of growth and expansion, and the 2nd house is the house of material possessions. So you have this planet of growth and expansion inside your 2nd house of possessions. The money and the things you own are going to constantly expand. This usually means that they'll spend money because they know it's going to come right back. And even if this person is lazy, they are still going to be wealthy. And they usually come from wealthy families. People with Jupiter in the 2nd house usually don't start out poor. They tend to get an inheritance, like a small loan of $1 million. That's the second time I brought that up. I just sound jealous at this point, and I am. But so it favors all business affairs, and it has a great probability of inheriting a family business, which, duh. So Jupiter in the 2nd house, he's a lucky motherfucker. That's all I can really say. And anyone who looks up Jupiter in the 2nd house placement, it will say the same thing, that it's literally the luckiest position that you could have Jupiter in. It's literally growth and expansion in your money, like written in the stars. Not fair. So his Jupiter is in Libra, the zodiac placement that it's in. This means that this person can manifest positive realities. What they think of in their head, they are going to get. And they're definitely more this is actually really funny. One of my books literally said, and I quote, they are more susceptible to lower their walls and open their borders. I'm just gonna leave that at that. So anywho, next we're gonna go on to Saturn. Now where Jupiter expands, Saturn constricts. And Saturn's in the 11th house, which is his most full house. We've already talked about it. It's the house of, you know, society at large, organizations, yada, yada, yada. And this means that this person can kind of be off-putting in social situations. And I think we all know Donald Trump is quite off-putting to most. But it also acts as a filter, which means he's not going to just let everyone he meets into his own social circle. But when he does, you're in that circle for life. You are locked down. If you are a close friend of his, you are like family. So this placement may restrict his, you know, close social circle and may, you know, do that. But for someone with that much wealth and with that much power, it's probably for the best, because I'm sure there's a lot of snakes in his life that just, you know, not just him. But anywho, let's move on. So his Saturn, this is the third placement now that is in Cancer, water, emotional Cancer. And this means that they are challenged at expressing their feelings to family and friends. And what dad isn't, let's be real. But this means that he's going to have a hard time, you know, telling his wife how much she means to him, or telling his kids, you know, that, hey, I'm proud of you. He'll probably express this in different ways, like money, or I'm just saying that because he's Donald Trump, but, you know, in other ways, you know, gifts. His love language is not going to be words. That's what I'm trying to say. So next we're going to move on to Uranus. Go ahead and get your laughs out now, because I'm going to say it probably 50 million times in the next 3 minutes. So his Uranus is in Gemini, another Gemini placement. This means that he's going to be pretty alternative and have a desire for freedom. He doesn't want to have a boss, he wants to be the boss. And I think that's, you know, pretty well shown throughout his life. He's his own boss. Everything he does has Trump's name on it. It's, you know, it's his. And it usually means that they need to be in a full spectrum of fields, not just one. And he has multiple placements that talk about this. So career-wise, it makes total sense why he has things from fragrances to soap companies, hotels, presidency, literally all over the fucking place. And his Uranus is in the 10th house. And this is that career house that shows where you're going to go in your career that his sun is also in. And this means that he's going to have trouble because the planet Uranus is very defiant. So which means in the career house, he's not going to want to be defined by his career, which also feeds into having, you know, a finger in every pie and trying out a bunch of different careers, because he's not going to be satisfied with just, you know, one business venture. And I think that that's probably a big reason why he moved on to become president, because he wanted a career that was going to have more of a legacy than just making money. Whether you think Donald Trump's Satan, like there's something in there that made him want to do something for the greater good. Whether you think it's good, whether I think it's good, that's debatable. But to him, he's doing something for the greater good. He's doing something with a longer lasting legacy than just his career. Yeah. So also, this is also really funny. So this planet Uranus, right, is going to have positive and negative transits all throughout his life, and it's in the career house. And if you look at when his businesses have gone bankrupt and when his businesses have flourished, and look at the Uranus transits throughout his life, it's literally like spot on. When Uranus is going backwards, moving negatively, it's literally, you know, bankrupt station for Donald Trump. And when it's moving positively, moving forward in the chart, he's doing just great. And it literally states Uranus, if you look up at any book, it says, you know, in Uranus in retrograde can bring bankruptcy. And yeah, it really did for him. I looked that up and I checked and I was like, holy shit, like what? Anyway, so that kind of explains why his business ventures have been kind of like up and down, up and down, up and down. I mean, he's not bankrupt by any means, but several of his company ventures have gone bankrupt. Anywho, sorry if I'm like stumbling over my words. I'm like looking at my notes and like trying to put like all of this into like just a few sentences and like read it at the same time, so just like bear with me. I don't know how to edit, right? Edit it out, and I don't know how to talk like a normal person, but like anyway. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about Neptune in Libra and the second house. So Neptune in Libra means that you are going to be full of ideas but lack clarity. Now, we've heard this before. They want perfection, but they rush things. So they want perfection, but they want perfection right now, which means they're probably going to skip step A, B, and C and go straight from like A to D. And that's probably not the best placement to be president, but he has a lot of good ones in there for leadership. So like, I'm going to cut him some slack. They also seek justice and want to restore balance. Whether or not we agree what that justice is, that's, you know, a different story. But to him, he wants to do something for the greater good. And having it be in the second house, which is the house of materialism, things due on possessions, you know, if they're wealthy, they just don't care about how much they spend. And I'm really jealous of all these placements he has where he just doesn't care about how much he spends, because like, hey, can you send me some of that? Spend some money on me. Entertainment is probably going to be one of his biggest expenses, because Neptune, hey, I'm not going to go into all that because it's going to take like 10 hours if I really like get to the nitty gritty. I'm just trying to like keep it brief, keep it fun. And before going into business ventures, because they know that they're not the best with their finances, they are going to consult someone else who is. And it's good that he has this placement, because he has several other placements in here that kind of say he just spends money on whatever. So I'm glad that he has Neptune in the second house to come in and check and be like, hey, wait a minute, this isn't your hottest take. Why don't you bring someone in who really knows what they're doing? So good to know. And that's, you know, earlier it said that he had the best placement for not only growth and finances, but for leading groups and bringing people together for a common cause. So being able to delegate like that is definitely important in bringing groups together, or being the freaking president. So last but not least, we have Pluto, and Pluto is in Leo. And Pluto was in Leo from 1939 to 1956. Now the thing about Pluto and these outer planets is they take way longer to go around the sun, which means they take way longer to transit into different houses and different zodiac signs. So it's usually a generational thing. We call them social signs because people who are born in your generation or in the same year as you are going to have that same placement. And what's really funny is during the free love movement, correct me if I'm wrong down a little bit, like I think it's as if any of the three of you watching know, but I'm pretty sure it's from 1956 to 1972 or 73 that Pluto was in Scorpio, which is like the sexy love planet. And it's kind of funny because during the 60s is when we had the free love movement, so that kind of makes a lot of sense. But so Pluto was in Leo for him and his whole generation, which means he's going to have intense and dramatic self-expression, and he's going to feel like he has a special destiny to fulfill, which makes a lot of sense why he became president. He wanted to fulfill that destiny, and he's probably one of the few people in his generation with the fame, the power, and the money to do so. And they usually have intense willpower, but they also have a lot of pride, which can get in the way. Having Pluto in the 12th house, which is the house of like endings, undoings, you know, how shit hits the fan, means that they're going to have a very intense life. In their highest manifestations, they're going to seek to understand the global collective and transform their pain on a global spectrum. So it makes a lot of sense now if you think about, you know, his rich white man pain that he's trying to apply to a global spectrum. Hey, Donald. But yeah, they also have a tendency to self-indulge and are rather obsessive and compulsive. These are like his downfalls, what's going to unravel him. Those are his like flaws, but I don't know. I think that pretty much applies to him. So that's all his planets. I didn't go into any of the asteroids or any of his conjunction aspects because we could be here literally, this would be like a 3-hour long video. If you want to know about those, his birth date and time, I said it at the beginning of the video, I think, maybe not, but his birth date and time is June 14th, 1946 at 10:54 a.m. at Jamaica Hospital, which is in Queens, New York, in the suburb of Richmond Hill, New York. So you can look that up and see all of his placements. And if you want to find out more about his asteroid placements and his conjunctions and all of that in a more in-depth, you can look that up and then do your own research. There's also a bunch of websites that do interpretations, but the thing is I just wouldn't really trust a Google generator to tell me about someone's, personal chart. But every person and every site, interprets astrology differently. This is Western Sidereal, by the way, not Vedic. That's a different, that's a different story. But no interpretation's wrong, they're just different. And everyone's going to interpret them differently. So if you do your own research on what the planet means and what the house means, you could come to a different conclusion. But there's tons of resources out there online and tons of books. And I encourage you to do your own research, fact check me, double check. But, I've been studying this stuff for a hot minute, and I hope this was interesting to some of you. And if you have if the 3 of you that are watching, hey Nicole, hey Josh, I don't think anyone else is probably watching this. But for the 3 of you that are watching, if you have any recommendations, please comment below who you want me to do. And if you don't think astrology is real, and you think this is a whole pseudoscience, and you want to leave a comment telling me how not real astrology is, go the fuck ahead, because I would be thrilled to have 1 comment, let alone 1 view, and I do not care if it's a hate comment, so go off, sis. Go off. Yeah, so thanks for watching my video. I don't know how long this was, but it was probably a half an hour, so if you stuck through this, thank you so much. Yeah, okay, bye guys.